welcome to another episode of
Scrutiny with Cheri and Andy.
I'm Andy Vargo, and this is my bestie,
Cheri Hardman. We decided to do something.
Yeah?
Andy Vargo and I will do anything for attention.
Yes, we will.
I'll tell you what I did. My nails, my hair, and my nails, my hair.
You gotta give yourself credit for all the things you do.
I'll tell you what I did earlier, later.
Now I don't know when it'll happen.
Earlier. And we're here to discuss my nails, my hair, and
Being the best at no matter what it is that you're doing. Now I don't know when it'll happen.
all right, we are ready to go. How are you today?
I am excellent, Cheri. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I just woke up from a chair nap.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I feel good. I kind of did a little bit of the same thing. I dozed a little bit on the love seat, and I got up at 6:30, was working away, and I thought I'm just gonna get a little refresher in before I catch up with my lady friend.
Yeah, we were doing some errands today, so it was about time for that afternoon lull, Sorry, I'm not fully awake from it, but
That's okay. We'll get there. Well, I know that maybe we're just still waking up, but there's just going to be so much energy in this show today because we have some amazing things to share with everybody. Don't we, Cheri?
We do.
First of all, I just wanted to mention we had an amazing show at Otter this last Monday.
We did. That was the biggest crowd we've ever had.
Yeah, it was packed full. Every table was taken. People were buddying up, which you have to do at comedy shows anyway, but it was like they were really having to, and even threw out an extra barrel and moved a couple tables around to make more room. It's fun when you're in that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good because in that space, it really helps. In any space, it really helps to have people all together instead of stretched out.
Yeah, and this
we
place,
had them both. We had them all together and stretched out because there were so many.
Yeah, because this building, if you have not been there, which I don't know why y'all wouldn't have been there yet, but There's another show coming up August 29th, so you can come to Odd Comedy at Odd Otter, but it's a long space and kind of narrow, and it's high ceiling, so you really got to get that crowd in there so you can hear and feel the reaction. But then that wasn't our only good show this weekend, was it?
That's true. We also had Saturday night. We did a show at Nightside
Distillery.
Yeah, Distillery, and that was a lot of fun. You, me, Narin Van, and Mike Hansen. And it was our first show at this venue, and it looks like it's going to become a regular thing. It was that was a packed room.
Yes, that was, and it was like there was no room to put another chair, and they were full. It was fun.
Yeah. So it was good, and so I talked to him. I sent you the message, but he was really happy with how it went. So looks like there's going to be another new place to do comedy, which is always good news.
It is. Speaking of other comedy, you got anything new coming up you want to share?
Oh, I've got lots of coming up I want to share. This weekend I'll be in Bellingham. I've never been to Bellingham before.
Really?
Ever. So, and I'm going by myself. I'm not bringing Dave or Andrew
or me
or you or anybody. So, I'll probably wash my arm before I go, though.
I hope so. You seem distracted.
Well, I don't know. There's dirt on my arm, and I don't know what it's from. So it'll be interesting. I don't know what to expect. New experiences.
Yeah, Bellevue is beautiful up there.
Bellingham.
It's amazing to me how, all along the coast here, we have a mix of water and trees and hills and mountains that you can kind of see, but each individual part of the state just has a little different mixture of that, different types of trees, different vegetation, just enough to make it different.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. August 5th, we'll be in Olympia.
Yes, we will. That'll be fun.
Silverio's Mexican restaurant. I don't know how they say it. So I don't know if I'm mispronouncing it. I'm a dork.
Because I am getting a hankering for. The best thing that I like about going to Mexican food, especially when I'm very hungry, is that they bring chips out right away, so you don't have to wait to start, stuff in your face. But
That's right. And next month I'm going to Tulsa for Blue Whale Comedy Festival.
that's exciting.
Yeah, and I'm excited about our next show at Odd Otter.
Yeah.
Just started promoting that. It's Odd Comedy at Odd Otter. And so I booked some really unusual, weird, odd people that I love and adore. And I don't mean, when I say weird or odd, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean unusual acts, unique. So I'm looking forward to that. While headlining Emmett Montgomery, and he was just on my heavy petting show. Sunday, we just did a show together there. So I love Emmett. I think we're kind of very unlikely friends.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I'm excited for that.
That's fun. Any big surprises in August?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Because I almost forgot that. On the 20th, August 20th, and I wanted to talk about this anyway. I'm doing a surprise party comedy show at Nate Jackson's Super Funny Comedy Club. But it's like, what I'm saying now is it's not at midnight. It's at 11:59 p.m. because then people were like, if it's 12 o'clock on Saturday, does that mean late night, Fred?
Yeah, I wondered if you would get that kind of questioning.
Yeah. So 11:59 Saturday night, the 20th. We're doing a surprise party. And, I'm really excited about it. But I am having a little difficulty trying to figure out how to market it without telling people what all the surprises are. But if I tell people the surprises, it's a little bit trickier than I thought it was going to be.
Right.
So,
well, and you may experiment a little the first few shows and find the right mix of what to share and what to surprise, or how to market it without sharing, much. Who knows?
Yeah. I have a lot of good ideas. So we're going to play with it and we're going to see. But just know, we just thought, it's been said several times by people that we need a late night comedy show.
That's going to be great.
Somewhere.
Yeah. And that'll be a great club for it.
That'll be fun. So what's going on with you?
Well, this weekend I'm going to be down. It's going to be a beautiful weekend. I'm going to be down on the waterfront at the Theophos Seaport Museum in Tacoma, and they've got the night market there on Saturday night, and then Sunday we do the drag show brunch market. And so from 11 to 4 on Sunday they do three different
wait a minute, can I interrupt? Is that is that late night thing you're doing, is that down by that one bar that we did shows at before?
Right by Rock the Dock.
Rock the Dock, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So the parking lot's right next to, a lot of people park in that parking lot that's next to Rock the Dock. It's right next to it. I've got my big bright orange tent, it pop up, so I'll be one of the outdoor vendors. We're right there kind of along the pier side of that. It's a great time. On Sunday, they have 3 different drag performances. They do like a performance at 1, 2, and 3, right there in the middle of the market. So you don't have to buy a ticket to a show. You don't have, it's not, there is a bar in there, but it's family friendly. You can, you just stand around the sides and watch while they perform in the middle space. So it's really fun. It's nice because you don't have to go, buy tickets that if you wanted to go to a drag show or just stop in for parties. So that makes it really fun and cool. And it just kind of mixes up the event. And there's so many great vendors and artists, and it's like, to me, it's a lot like the comedy scene. You meet people and they start to become your friends in different ways. You have this community of people that you see at all these things again. So I'm looking forward to that. Going to be selling some shirts, selling some books. And then you had mentioned that we do have the event on the 5th down in Olympia. And then on the 13th, 12th or 13th, 1 week later, but on the Saturday, I'm going to be performing up in Federal Way for a Pride show. So that's going to be fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the 13th is Andrew's birthday. So I was talking this morning about trying to figure out what to do with that. Like, we want to invite people over to our house, but Nipsey lives here.
Oh, yeah.
Such an asshole.
Yeah. Are you going to get rid of him?
No, we just might meet people somewhere and instead of bringing them here. I don't know. We're thinking of, because we got, not only do we have disc golf in the back, but I bought Dave cornhole.
Oh, cool.
You could also play cornhole at our house. So it seemed like a fun thing to do, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I wanted to mention, and you mentioned having Emmett on your podcast. We both kind of started getting our other podcasts that we were doing separately before we started doing this one. We both kind of let those, fizzle a little bit and have kind of both started rejuvenating those. And I think you've had a couple, right? You didn't have one before Emmett?
I did Julia Irely, yeah, and then Emmett, yeah.
Yeah, so you've had a couple. I am getting my Own Your Awkward podcast fired back up with a whole new lineup of guests. I recorded one Thursday, and I have 4 more scheduled over the next 2 weeks. So
what's back. Really like the premise or the format or whatever of your podcast?
So on Own Your Awkward, it's the same question with every single guest. I ask everyone, what is the awkward thing you've had to own to live your best life to get to where you are today? And whether it feels cheesy to say live your best life, but if I say to be successful, I don't want people to misread my definition of success, because to me, success is whatever that means for you, right? Like if you're wanting to be left alone and have a quiet space and that's success for you, that's great. If you want stardom or riches in finances or whatever it is, that's different for everybody. So however you define that, what have you had to really come to terms with and accept and been able to use? And you were my first guest. That was awesome.
Good. I was
just listening to part of that the other day. It was such a fun episode. And this next week, I have the most famous guest I've ever had on. So I interviewed him on yesterday, and that's going to launch on Tuesday. And that was a really fun episode to record for a couple reasons. I have not recorded that specific podcast for a while. So part of me was like, oh, like I should have had like a test run, maybe done a little ease into it.
Felt a little rusty.
Yeah. But I had gone through the days leading up and listened back through a bunch of my old episodes, because there were a couple of things I wanted to specifically change to create some dynamic engagement right away. I used to ask people when they came on to tell about themselves, and we ended up kind of going down a rabbit hole of a biography or who they were a little bit more than I wanted to. So a lot of times at the beginning, we didn't get to the fun stuff yet.
Right.
So now I have a new format where I just ask, what's the most positive thing you see in the world right now? And then from that, I go into the awkward. We'll talk about that a little bit. We might talk a little bit about what the person does, just depending on what that leads to. But pretty quickly, we get into the awkward conversation. And then at the end, we can follow up on what they have going on, what they want to share with the world of their business or whatever they're trying to promote. But it was such a fun conversation, because not only was I feeling like, oh, I should have warmed up, but also having it be someone who has, almost 700,000 followers on Facebook, and it's an author, you've read their books and you know who they are, and they're out there in the world, and you're thinking, oh God, how I don't want to forget to hit record and have to like beg them to redo it. Like all these things that, little things that you might not be nervous, but you start getting nervous about things you wouldn't otherwise be. So it was good. And it was just, once we started talking, it was such a relaxing dynamic that any nervousness was gone. So that was good.
Oh, good. I watched a video the other day.
That's cool.
I should have sent you the link, whatever. But it was kind of a dumb title, but it was like something like why Jamie Foxx is such a good host, or why Jamie Foxx something. And it was just like 5 or 10. I think it was 5 little things that he does.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Like, I don't know that Jamie Foxx I didn't know that he really did this, but anyway, it was really good. And there was one tip that I really found helpful, and I used it on with Emmett the other day.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna find it and send it to you and have you watch it and just
Yeah,
we can discuss it some other time, like maybe next week. I don't know.
I'd love to watch that. So for the people who haven't watched Heavy Petting, what can they expect to see?
Comedians talking about their pets and their love lives. Simple as that. It's usually just it's usually only like a 15-20 minute show. This
Mhm.
last episode was 45 minutes.
Oh,
Well, and it's a storyteller.
yeah. But it's nice if
Very
the
sad.
conversation is going great, then
Right,
why
right.
cap? Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, and I posted this today, out of all like the heavy petting stories that people have told me on heavy petting I think his was the weirdest.
Oh, interesting.
That was the weirdest thing. I said to him, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. So
I still have not had a chance to watch it, but I'm gonna have to hit play and get that thing going here.
yeah.
I
Because Andy and I are savvy like this, if you put one of my videos on and then just walk away, I mean, we don't want you to do that, but if you did, you watch one and then you have to go to the bathroom, just leave it playing and I have it on a playlist. So it will just keep playing episodes of my show and they will look like somebody's watching them, even if you're not. So.
Well, yeah, because like you could be doing housework all day or running.
I kind of do that. I do that a lot. I leave it just going and go about my business and listen while I'm doing other things. So
I don't know how long you think someone's going to be in the bathroom, but
well, doing dishes or whatever you got to do. The other thing is just I've noticed some other like people that have YouTube shows not doing that. And I think you're the one that told me about that. Be sure to put it on a playlist.
Oh, yeah.
And the next video that comes up will be yours on the playlist.
Well, I don't know. And this is something I kind of want to go back to with my own development. But I think sometimes we have to remember to retrain ourselves. When I started, remember my awkward thoughts videos? That's what I started doing on YouTube, were those awkward thought videos. And they were fun. I like doing them. But the recording technology I had at the time meant that it took me a long time to edit it to get the one little clip that I got. So I may go back doing some stuff like that. However, I read and researched and watched so much about how to get YouTube followers, how to set up your channel. And that the playlist was one of those things that I read. And I thought, I really need to go back to square one and rewatch some of those tutorials as if I'm starting over again now that I have this base of knowledge, because I retained stuff and I implemented a few things, but there are so many things that felt so much harder to do because I was trying to do it all at once. Now that I have this base that is just a system in place and it's easy to do, maybe there's some other benefits I can add in, and more than just the YouTube thing. Like there's several areas in my life where I'm thinking, okay, well, I've had this business for 5 years going now, and I was diligent about studying and learning the first year, and along the way I've always continued to do growth, but to go back to the very basics and ask the questions as if, what do I need to do if I'm just starting out? That's a whole different way to ask the question, and then it'll make me kind of audit what I'm doing.
It's always good to go back and reevaluate. When I decided to start doing heavy petting again, I had to kind of what you were talking about earlier, I had to stop and think like, oh wait, it's been a while since I did this. I want to make sure I don't forget. Because I have some built-in questions that I always ask.
Yeah.
And then some other things that I wanted to kind of tweak. And so but now like I literally had to write a list of the questions because it's been a while, so I didn't want to forget anything, I didn't have to use to do that. So
yeah, I had to do that same thing because I just have the one premise. All of my questions are follow-ups to that initial conversation, but I do have like a list of some canned things, but I had to kind of write it back out because I have to kind of be prepared to think, okay, I ask people, what was your awkward? Well, that's great. Then I need to be prepared to say, well, how did you know you needed to make a change, and when did you notice it, and how did it feel, and who did it affect, and how did people react? Like they're very I don't want to say it's formula, but it's a lot of the similar questions come up through that conversation. And I don't always ask all of them. And depending on where the conversation goes, different ones seem more appropriate or more important. But But I
Well,
had to,
and it's like the follow-up questions are often key, and that's,
yeah.
something I'm still trying to get good at. Like, I think having this podcast with you has helped me to be a little more engaging when I'm on my own, because that's one reason why I stopped doing heavy petting, because I thought, wow, man, you are boring,
Oh,
you
no.
know. So,
But it's interesting because, like, we always look like we're just having a conversation on these podcasts and when we're in these situations, but there is some planning that goes into it that is like, okay, how am I going to lead the conversation? Because ultimately I could have a guest who gives me one word answers all the time. I've had that happen where it's like, oh, what was your awkward? And they'll say, being quiet. I'm like, okay, so how did that affect you? So if I don't have some things already in the pipeline, I'm going to have like a lot of dead air. I've
right.
also had the other extreme where people just don't stop talking and I'm having to rein that in.
Yeah.
Usually that's me.
No, no, it's not. You know how to talk the appropriate amount of time.
I have my moments.
Oh, what's in? I just found something in my pocket, and I was like,
I was not sure where it came out of, and I was just like, I just looked like you were scratching, and then all of a sudden you had a piece of
No,
skin.
we took it. Andrew had his follow-up appointment from his surgery today, and so this was a follow-up on the follow-up appointment. So sorry. Oh, Andy's not a sociopath, so yeah.
That's good to know. So was there anything specific you wanted to talk about outside of all the stuff we have going on?
I want to talk a little bit about manifestation.
That's great. I was on that same page.
Just because I thought it was really funny what happened the other night.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
Sorry, all of a sudden. So the other night, Andy said to me, we're texting like we do constantly all day long. What do you say? Somebody said that however your night ends, that's how your morning starts, or what was it?
However you feel when you're going to bed is how you're going to feel when you wake up. So if you're going to bed stressed about the next day and worried about life and afraid of things, you're going to wake up with that same feeling. But if you go to bed grateful for whatever's in your life, or excited about anything, pick something, or whatever it is, if you feel positive when you go to bed, that's how you're going to start your next day.
Yeah, and so I said, oh, well, I'm really excited about this unexpected money that's coming tomorrow. And then almost like first thing when I got up, I saw that someone had sent me money. And even though they owed it to me, so it wasn't really unexpected. I had totally forgotten about it. So I wasn't expecting it. So technically it was unexpected. So then I kind of laughed and I had to tell you about it because I thought, wow, that was quick,
Right.
Because I used to always say, and visualize about unexpected checks in my mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't do it with checks so much because people don't always send checks anymore, it's other methods of, but so I just like to call it unexpected money. And I used to really, like, people would be amazed sometimes at how many unexpected weird checks I would get in my mailbox. So yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing how much it works. And I have had this happen so much. And you can call it whatever you want. There is science behind how your brain works, and your brain is filtered to look for the things that you are looking for. And people have experienced this probably the most when they get a new car or something like that. And then all of a sudden they start seeing that same car everywhere. And they thought, oh, this is a unique car.
When you're pregnant, you see pregnant women everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Your brain filters to do that. And I hadn't thought about this till I was reading a book by my friend Melissa Hughes. She's a neuroscientist, so she knows how the brain works. But one of the things that I read was that there's too much for our brain to process. If you, like, just right now looking forward, there's so much imagery around me between the window over here, the window over there, all the stuff in my house, any alert that could pop up anywhere, that if I was taking all of that in on a very conscious level, my mind would just be on overload. So my reticulating filter in my brain is doing the work for me by only focusing on what I want to do and just kind of weeding everything else out. Now, where that comes into play with manifesting is that you're kind of telling your brain and doing the work with your subconscious of being like, I want to be aware of this. I want these opportunities to come up for growing my business, for getting more money, for whatever the things are, for good health. And it's kind of setting that filter and helping like guide it a little bit so that it puts those things in your path or ways to get those things.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, I but just believe that it calls upon the universe,
right?
Like in a spiritual way. When my mom always says, "Why do you call it the universe and not call it God?" I'm like, I call it both. I call it one or the other. Like, to me, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, it's a universal term.
Mm-hmm. So,
and I guess that's where I was kind of I didn't finish going there. I was kind of starting to, but it's that you can call it whatever. It can be your faith. It can be other things at play, or it could be science. And there's no reason all three of those things can't be true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I've had people say, and I kind of felt this way at first when I started believing like this, is that I felt like that was a way to blame people like who were poor. Well, you're just not manifesting enough, And so there is a certain amount of, yeah, I get that. Because there are certainly people who, through no fault of their own, are in horrible situations.
Oh, exactly.
Right. Yeah. But also, usually the people that want to argue that point and that say that are usually the most freaking negative people to be around. And so sometimes it's like, because some people, I've had friends that always want to focus on the negative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so sometimes if I'm having a bad, shitty day and I want to talk to someone about it, I don't call Andy. I'll call my negative friend who's going to say, oh, yeah, that's awful with me. When I'm ready to like handle it and deal with it, then I'll call you, because we're going to work towards the positive. It's true. So
and sometimes you do need to get that out,
Right. Well, I'm not saying I never call you when things are bad. I'm just saying if I'm in a negative spiral and I want someone to be there with me, I will call a negative friend rather than calling a positive friend.
Yeah. It's like there's just so much behind it. Like when I drove to Spokane, I had decided I had 5 hours in the car there and 5 hours back. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to listen to some different videos. And, there's that movie, The Secret, a lot of people have watched, but there's a lot of people in that movie that have a lot of content out there. And so I was listening to some videos by Bob Proctor. And I think maybe a day or two before that, I had listened to one of his videos. And it was one of those times where I'd heard him say things over time, many different times, but just that one time it can click. And he just said it was really simple. It was like one sentence or two. He said, getting the life you want is very simple. You just picture the life you want and then don't do anything that doesn't fit into that. Now, I've heard him say that over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I was thinking too big about it because I was thinking, well, I don't want to be, having to work at a bar just to get my bills paid while I get my business off. I don't want to, but I can't not do that because then I can't pay my bills. But when it comes down to, well, if I want to grow my business, sitting down and watching an episode of Psych or Schitt's Creek, that doesn't fit into me growing the life I want. And not that you can never do that, but doing it at the right time. Like, okay, this is time for me to wind down and relax. I'm going to watch a show and enjoy that versus I just don't know what to do right now. And I'm just not having any gumption. So I'm going to do that. There's two different things.
Right.
Or if I want to picture myself maybe being a little bit more fit and trim, well, me having a Snickers bar for dinner doesn't fit into that life I say that I'm wanting.
Or us going out for a second dinner, which we have been known to do.
But I also want companionship, camaraderie, and social time. So for me, it's a balance of like, well, because I thought about that. There's a couple times, like last night, I went across the street to the bar. It was like 90 degrees in here. I'm roasting. And I could tell myself, well, having a drink at, on a Wednesday night doesn't fit into this view of a healthy life. But part of the life I'm picturing is also being social, being able to enjoy myself and visit with a community of people that I see around town. So I could, so you have to balance what is that real life you want, because for me, I have no desire to be like that pure gym rat where it's like, oh, I never put anything toxic in my body. So
Right.
as long as it fits in with that, I think you have to be careful about not over justifying it too much and making
We could go out for second salad sometime.
that's true.
Hmm.
But also if I go out to dinner, if I go out for a second dinner with you once a month, it's not like I'm doing that every night. Now, if we were doing that 3 times a week, that would catch up with me.
That's true. We don't do it that often.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say earlier that about being the negative friend, that people call, like, if you notice that all your friends call you and bitch and complain to you, guess what? You're the negative friend that everybody runs to when they're negative because you're negative. So
it's good to be aware of.
mhm.
And one thing I noticed, I was reading this book one time, and it was really about workplace dynamics because I was trying to improve my work life. Now, this is when it was close to the end of my marriage. Things were really tense at home, probably a year before I came out and got divorced. Work was also very tense. I noticed that I was attracting the same dynamic with my bosses as I was with my ex in my relationship, where I just was always the one dumped on. I was all, I didn't stand up for myself. I didn't have respect, all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, I think you just get to a point in your life where you go, oh, I'm the common denominator here. What am I doing? It doesn't make their behavior right, but where do I need to put up boundaries? And I was reading this book, and one of the things it was talking about was, workplace and getting along with coworkers and stuff. But one of the things it talked about was, from like your workplace friends, be sure that you're not showing up and dumping on people. And I had a friend, we're still good friends, but I noticed a couple times where I would like go in his office and I'd be like, oh, this and then this and then that. And it was really a cry for help. Like, I don't know what to do, because it was like, I can't be this stressed at work and this stressed at home. Something's going to break. And I even said that to him one day. I was like, I don't know. And, but I remember when I read that sentence in that book about be very aware, because if you are the person that shows up and dumps all their problems on somebody, you're just throwing all that bad energy on them, and you're going to be someone that people don't want to be around. And it made me think, oh my God, I'm doing that. And so I became very careful. I would still share, but to make sure that that wasn't the only thing.
I know. I remember not that long ago, somebody came over, and the whole time they were here, all they did was complain. And I'm 100% positive they did not realize that.
Yeah.
And when they left, it was like Dave said, wow, they just came over and just vomited all over you and then just left. And I'm like,
yeah,
that's exactly what it felt like. So sometimes when we're just having a really bad time, we just don't realize what we're doing.
And that's fair, because sometimes you can look at a friend like that where you're like, man, they're going through something. Especially if that's not their normal thing, where you're like, oh my God, this is not them. They got to get it off their chest. They need some help.
Right.
But when it becomes a problem, is if it's always that, where you're just like, oh man.
Yeah. Then you start not answering the door.
Call from Cheri.
That's why Cheri doesn't answer her phone most of the time.
So just, and that's the thing, just to be aware, like, how am I, for me, it's awareness on 2 levels. How am I giving myself to people? What am I putting out there? And it sounds cheesy to say it, but like, what energy am I giving off? And then, what am I taking in from people?
Right. Very true. This is totally off the topic. Okay. I forgot to say some. I wanted to talk about the Comedy Voice.
Yes, that's exciting.
I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Because I'm one of the coaches. It's me, Luke Severide, and Josh Firestein.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting a little nervous about it because I'm listening to so many people complain about Nate's contest,
Okay.
And like people are saying stuff like, how did so-and-so make it through? Like, they suck and all this. But I'm like, were you there last night at the contest? No. Well, then you shut up because you weren't there. You weren't there.
Yeah.
So I'm just realizing as much complaining as I've heard, that I'm going to be hearing a lot of complaining. So I'm trying to like figure out how to, first of all, deal with that just as a person who, like, I'm a sensitive person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to not take that personally towards yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but also you may even have to have like a rule that you set for yourself of like, I'm not talking about like what the, I don't care who messages me, I'm not going to have a conversation with you about it.
That's true. That's probably a good idea, because I'm going to have to be saying some opinions that are going to hurt people's feelings.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like, I'm realizing I saw the list and it's like, oh, I've got to like kind of erase my mind of that, because we're not supposed to really know who's up on the stage. Okay. But I look at the list as, okay, I want the people on my team who I think could actually win this contest.
Right. Which is the whole point. You guys are supposed to, it's also a contest for you guys to try to have the best team and win.
Right. So I look at the list and I see some lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
They might be my friends. They might be people that I work with a lot. They might be funny in their own right, but I don't think they could win. Or if they won, I don't think they have enough material to carry them through.
Right.
And so I'm not going to want to pick them to be on my team. So I don't know. It's causing me a little, you know how I am. I like to be honest, and I'm not always that nice with it. But on the other hand, I'm actually just really, really soft on the inside.
Well, the thing is, it's like you're not mean or rude, but you don't necessarily sugarcoat. Like, you're not going to be frivolously, oh, I'm going to sit here and dance around your feelings. Because like you said, that doesn't help anybody to paint the right picture. One thing that my best work friend Karen, when we were working together, I always envied her ability to just say to somebody, that doesn't work for me, without any explanation, without any excuse. It could be the boss saying, this is what you're getting for a raise next year, and she'd be like, that doesn't work for me. It could be, can we do lunch on Tuesday? And she just was very good at being able to say that, and not in a mean, rude way, but just, this is what I need and this is what works for me. And it can be as simple as, that doesn't work for my team, or you're not the right fit for what I'm looking for on my team. Sometimes that can be completely separate from how well they do. I used to have that conversation when I was hiring. We would do grand opening for stores, and so I'd have to hire a whole crew at once for that store, which meant you're interviewing 20 or 30 people for 5 or 6 positions in the department I was hiring for. And I remember telling people every time, because I was always very aware of like, am I going to hurt? Like, is someone going to be crushed because they don't get this job? And the thing I always said was, because it was always like, hey, if you don't hear back, we don't have a spot. But if we, I'll let you know if we're going to move forward. And then I would say, but just to let you know, we're hiring for a whole team. And if you don't make it, it might not be that you're not a good fit to hire. It could just be that we already have someone who works those hours, or we already have that type of player on the team. And it doesn't mean like that you're not qualified. We have a very specific spot we're filling.
And that's true, because I realized that with booking shows, is that sometimes, like, for this particular night, you just don't kind of fit into what I'm trying to do,
Yeah, and you need to have the right mix of comedians that aren't all the same style or same jokes. Like, even with the show, and I've run into this a lot with pride shows, it's difficult because a lot of the humor if it's a theme show, you run the risk of people are going to hear similar style jokes all night long. Now, if they come to that show knowing that's the theme, chances are they're going to be happy with that. Like if you do a Mother's Day show and it's all mom humor and it's advertised that way and people know that, that's great. But if you don't know that and you walk in, it's like, oh, I didn't know we were going to hear this joke. You know, I felt like I watched the same comedian 4 times in a row, and all 4 could be great comedians.
Right. That's exactly why I kind of, when I did our Pride show, I hired Andrew Franks to be the headliner because he doesn't have a lot of that.
Yeah, it was a nice
that kind of material. It's a totally different.
Yeah, and actually it was a good mix between myself and Jayla and Richie and Andrew. Everyone really kind of had different approaches and takes and styles.
Which, by the way, for September, we have Bo Blast headlining.
Hey, that'll be fun.
Yeah. It'll be a blast.
It will be. Yeah, so I think that's tricky, and it's hard because people can, like, let's say you have a friend that you don't pick to be on your team. Let's say I go up and you don't pick me. Now I can choose to be, you know, mad about that and feel entitled that I should have been on your team because we're tight or whatever. But at the same time, if you would pick me, then all of a sudden everyone else would be like, well, of course she's picking him, they're besties. So then you get all
there's different dynamics. Yeah.
So people can make whatever assumptions they want, and at the end of the day we have to just know that whatever they say, we don't have to justify whatever they.
Well, and there are some people I don't think I would be the best coach for them. You know, because maybe I don't get their style, or it's so different from mine, or I think Luke would work better with them, or whatever.
Right.
You know?
And honestly, like if I was going up, I'm not in it, I'm not planning to be in it this year. So, but if I was, I wouldn't, if all the choices were all 3, you'd probably be the last one I would pick because we are tight enough. I get all of the dynamic with you already.
Right.
So it'd be nice to get something different from somebody that I don't normally interact with.
For sure.
Yeah. One thing that on this feeling thing, when I came out, I remember, and I heard this probably like a year or maybe even 2 years before I came out. And someone had said, because I had made a comment about not being like, if I come out and that, you know, messes up the lives of my kid and my wife and like all these things. And I think I was, at the time, I think I was specifically talking about my ex-wife and how like this can hurt them. And someone basically said, you can't be responsible for everybody else's feelings. And I didn't realize back then how codependent I was in a lot of ways, that like, oh, that's like, I do need to not try to solve everybody else's problems. It's like, no, this is what I need for my health. And here's how we need to deal with maybe the relationship. But for your health, you're going to have to do your thing. And that's like with this, if someone else doesn't take whatever you say or however you do, they got to fix that.
Well, yeah. It'll be fine. You know, I like to worry about stuff that's coming up. I like to figure things all out before I go into a situation, is really what it is.
But it just shows that you care.
I'm not an a-hole. Not that much of an a-hole anyway. Seemed like there was something else I wanted to say before we went. What was it?
I don't know. That's exciting though. The contest starts, is it next week or the week after? It's coming up soon.
It is the first. It starts on the 1st.
Okay. Oh, that's Monday.
First night, Monday, yeah. So it'll be Monday night, and then the next week, Monday and Tuesday, the next week, Monday and Tuesday, the next week, Tuesday, the next week, Tuesday. Okay. There's a couple of days that we don't do it, but mostly it's every Monday and Tuesday.
Wow.
And then Wednesday is the finals of Nate's contest.
Okay, wow.
So I'll probably go watch that just to kind of see what happens, you know. Yeah. But
and I guess I know that we've said this, I know you've said this, or variations of it. The thing is with contests, people want to sit there and they want to find a way to feel better about whatever the outcome was. And they want to be able to say, well, if everything was perfectly fair, if everything was this, if everything was that. And the thing is, we're in the entertainment industry. People are going to react to us differently in any crowd, whether that's a judge or the audience or anything. We're all going to have better nights. We're all going to have worse nights. Yeah, it's so subjective. So you can't judge your value as a comedian or an artist. You can't judge how well you're doing based on that one thing. You need to just be like, you need to go
There's
into it
some
with
other, yeah.
going to be fun. If I do one night or 4 nights or make it the whole way, I'm going to have fun with it.
Yeah, I put my hat in the ring to compete in SICC again.
Nice.
And so I was giving someone advice yesterday or today that I also needed to give myself,
Yeah.
They were like kind of saying, why am I even in this contest? I know I'm not going to win. I'm not, And I said, well, make a goal for yourself, maybe even just a small one, whatever it is that will at least make you feel like you accomplished something by doing this. And which is what I really have done for myself, that I have a goal of what I would like to happen. And then anything beyond that is just icing on the cake,
Yeah, that's a good way to go into it. Now, as a judge, before we go, do you have any advice you would give to people who are competing? Other than sending you chocolates?
Some people worry about, oh, should I do the same set every time or should I change it every time? I think in this particular contest, of course, you always lead with your best stuff. And I think in this one, as you go on, you have to do longer amounts of time. So in the beginning, do your very, very best. And then you can kind of add to that as you go.
Yeah.
Add your other stuff to it. Because people will notice, oh, she's done the same set every time. Is that all she has?
Right.
Does he only have one joke? Because that's all I've ever heard him tell. So always lead with your best stuff. And then as you go on, I do because here's the lovely thing about comedy, I think anyway, is that I used to have an A-list jokes and B-list jokes. And now I don't really feel like I do. Because I've been able to move my stuff around where I could close with any of my jokes, I think. I always close usually with vagina jokes or my song because they just feel like closer things. But I could close my show on taco meat and it would be fine.
I really enjoyed, I don't know if I told you this, I was going to, so if I may have said it already, but I really enjoyed watching you the other night at the distillery, because it's been a while since I've seen you do comedy, but since I've seen you do, I guess in a Boise I saw you do the full set, but this was just that great setting in the room for it too.
Right.
And I could tell you were having a lot of fun with it. But since I've really seen you do that full length headlining set, and I was just sitting there appreciating how well you do and how well you are able to talk through multiple different topics, multiple different stories, pull them all together that still seems within one voice, that isn't like, oh, I'm going to talk about this thing and then it's so disjointed, now I'm going to talk about that. It all tied together well enough and it was hilarious. It was funny. The crowd loved it. You were able to interact with the crowd. And I was just sitting there thinking, God, Cheri's just pulling stories from throughout her life and making them hilarious. And I love that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Almost makes me want to cry a little bit. So just know that those jokes that you think aren't your best ones or whatever, if you keep working on them, they can all become your A-list jokes. So just keep working. I'm going to keep writing. That's what but what? Why are you making that face?
Now I might cry a little bit.
Well, it takes a lot of hard work, and there have been many a day that we've sat down to write and then just sat there and bullshit the whole time because we couldn't come up with anything, but we still kept trying,
Yeah. Well, I just got a text from somebody and they said, oh, I need a joke for this thing. And I was able to send them something that was funny, like within 5 minutes. And I'm like, why the hell can't I do that for myself?
You can, though.
They're going to tag me in it and give me credit, but
yeah,
it was funny. I was like,
so yeah. And the other thing is, it's just nervousness and lack of confidence is your biggest enemy in a contest. Maybe a little bit of nerves is okay, but your nerves always show. If you're nervous, it shows. You just go up there and say, you know what, I'm just going to have fun with this and do my best. You're going to do way better than if you really let it get to you. So whatever that you need to calm yourself and believe in yourself before you get up there will make a big difference.
Now, if I could just say super quick on
Mhm.
that point, my favorite video I've ever watched about that is Mel Robbins. She's backstage about to go out in front of 10,000 people. She's a huge motivational speaker. And she says, I am backstage. I'm about to go speak in front of tens of thousands of people. And my gut is churning. But the only difference in whether or not that's nervousness or excitement is what I'm telling myself. My body, physiologically, biologically, my body's going to feel the same way if I'm nervous and scared as if I'm excited. So when I feel that way, right before I go out there, if I can say, I'm excited to do this, I'm excited to do this, you're basically telling your body it's a different feeling, so that if you do have that nervousness, and I would really Google Mel Robbins backstage nerves, it should come right up, and it's like a 5-minute watch. That's so helpful, because just retelling that story in a different way helps you take control of that.
That's cool. Very good. All right. Well, I don't think I have any other advice except if I turn around for you, pick me.
Yes, if she turns around, it's like the bar has been raised. So
Because I might not be turning that much. Let me just say, Mama doesn't like to move, so I'm only going to turn around if I really want you on my team. So.
I'm putting all this effort in. I better not be rejected over it.
Bad neck. It hurts for me to move it. So. All right. Well, it's been lovely talking to you as always.
It has been. Everybody have